I was driving in today early this morning, and the sun was not quite up, but there was this burst of color in the sky. Just gorgeous bands of purple and red and orange and yellow, painting up over the clouds, shining up into the sky, the promise of the sun coming, the promise of a new day dawning. I was thinking about our liturgy today when we talk about the sun rising on a world of fresh possibility. It just all seemed new and perfect. Everything was beautiful. It was quiet. It was so early that I was the only one on the road. The only people on the road at that time of day are people who are coming home from the night before or are pastors on their way to church. So there's kind of a lonely crowd out there in the early morning. But there we were. And there was the new day that was dawning. And it occurred to me how beautiful the sky was and how that beauty had nothing necessarily to do with what was going on below. I was joyful, getting to come here and hang with my friends, getting to come here and celebrate worship, getting to head out today in service, getting to be the sent ones of God, the apostolos, as the Greeks put it, the sent ones of God. But there's all kinds of tragedy and misery and other things going on under that same beautiful sky. It struck me that that same sky, beautiful and clear, dawned over New York City 14 years ago on a day that is as terrifying and horrific as any in living memory. And that in the 5,113 days that have dawned since that day, that same beautiful sky has opened each and every day. Sometimes cloudy and gray, sometimes rainy, sometimes beautiful and clear, sometimes cloudy, but that same gorgeous, constantly changing palette was dawning over everything that was going on here below. All of the good things and all the bad things too. I begin to think about our world. I look at the pictures that we have back up from our series that we did some time ago. And now they're down here and they kind of surround us in this space. And it reminds me, it makes me mindful of the world around us and how it's not all perfection and beauty. In fact, there's so much strife and struggle and so much hardship for people and violence and anger and fear around us in the world that I'm sometimes overwhelmed by it. I can't take it all in. I can't begin to think about how we move on. And I think of Jesus and the world into which God sends him. And maybe sadly, maybe somewhat familiarly, things haven't changed all that much. Our world is not very different from the world into which Jesus is sent as an apostolos, the sent one of God. A lot of the same things, a lot of the same social and cultural ills, a lot of the same contextual things still burden us as they did the people in Jesus' time. His time was a time of violent oppression, empire crushing down, demanding, calling for the fueling of the empire's project, all of the produce of the people, all of the work of their hands, their flocks and herds and farms and fields, taken to fuel the ambitions of one empire after another. In Jesus' time, it was the Romans. Fill in your emperor, fill in your dominating empire. It was a hierarchical time. The social structure was very hierarchical, not unlike ours. In fact, I was reading, there's a Jewish scholar and teacher named Shia Cohen. He's written some brilliant books, writes about the cultural history of first century Palestine, and says that it's likely that virtually all of the wealth held by the people of Palestine was probably held by a very rarefied few at the top of a sharp point in this kind of diagram of their culture. He says perhaps as few as 1%. And I thought, wow, I've heard that number. Jesus, in the natal story in Matthew's gospel, the narrative of Jesus' birth, His father is warned by an angel that they're in danger. So the story goes. An angel of the Lord appears to Joseph and tells him in a dream, take your family and run. Take your family and flee down as far as Egypt. Flee south through the Negev, the southern desert. As if it's not dangerous enough to travel in Palestine itself, but to leave the area of human habitation, go down into the desert and make the crossing into Egypt is hugely dangerous, terrifying prospect. And yet, the inspiration that Joseph has is, I've got to take my family and flee because the violence here threatens us with death. Jesus and his family are refugees. They're illegal immigrants to Egypt. His time is not that different from our own. Sadly, all too familiar. And yet this one comes refusing to be overwhelmed by the challenges that confront him, political and economic and military, from the regime, even religiously and spiritually from the entrenched institution of the church of his time, the Sadducean worship of the temple, with whom he's at odds constantly. He's a truth teller in a world that's not prepared or ready or willing to hear truth. And stopped ears and closed hearts have a way of dealing with truth tellers. And yet he persists. And the disciples get worried about him. People get worried about Jesus all the time. His own family gets worried about him. You recall this from Matthew and from Luke's gospel. They think he's lost his mind. Doing and saying the things that he is saying and doing will get you killed. They are absolutely convinced that he is unhinged. And they come trying to do some kind of family intervention. And the disciples come to him and say, Jesus, your mom and your brother and your sisters are outside. And Jesus looks around at all the people that are gathered with him. And he says, who are my mother and my sisters and my brothers? Everyone who does the will of God is my family. All of the disciples, all of the apostolos, everyone who lives to do God's will are my mother and my sisters and my brothers. He tells his disciples today, they're worried about him again. You got to eat something. He's probably been wearing himself out, meeting needs and dealing with challenges as they confront him in his daily going and doing. Doesn't seem to have much of a pattern or a plan. He just seems to engage whatever challenges or problems he finds along the way and deals with them immediately, in the moment, with what he has at hand. And they're worried about it. He says, you got to eat something. He says, I have food that you don't know about. And they kind of get cynical when somebody's been sneaking them food. No, he says, my food is to do the will of the one who sent me. Astounding. My food is to do God's will, is what he says. This is how he sustains himself. This is how he nurtures and nourishes himself. It is to do what God has sent him to do, what God calls him to do, in the moment, as it occurs. That's how he feeds. God's will. Paul says, be transformed by a renewing of your mind. The same minds that shape and cause problems are not going to be the ones that solve problems. Be transformed by a renewing of your mind. Then you will know and be able to discern what is the perfect and loving will of God. There it is again. And I've encountered this a lot in my own studies and struggles, in my own journey, and among a lot of different people that I've talked to. The will of God. What is God's will? What is God's will for my life? God has a pattern and a plan. God has a will for my life, and I need to know what that is. I'm afraid I might have missed it. It might have gone by, and I didn't catch it as it was going, and now am I lost forever? I don't know what God's will is for my life. And this is a great time of anniversary, of remembrance. Anniversaries of weddings. There have been a number in our community in this past month. August anniversaries, yeah? August birthdays, 57 years of living. And I look back over that and I think, I honestly believe this. If God has shown me anything, God's will for my life is no different than God's will for your lives. God's will for my life is exactly the same as God's will for yours. It's to love others as I would be loved myself. The Bible says it as clearly and resoundingly as anywhere it's ever been said. Love others as you would be loved. That's my job. That's God's will for me. As an apostolos, as a sent one of God, that's my role. Now, in the uniqueness of my context, in the people whose lives I engage, in the places that I go, in the challenges and opportunities that I encounter, God is calling forth that in me. And it may look differently in application and practice than it does for you. Probably does, because we're different people and we circulate in different circles. But God's will, as Jesus says, I eat, I feed on doing God's will. That is my food, that is my sustenance. God's will is for us to love as we would be loved. And that's as simple as it is profound. You look at the challenges that are represented by these pictures that are around us. Imagine the world where each of us lives that way, loves that way. The word Jesus keeps using time and time and time again, agape, the Greek word that translates love for us in English, means self-giving, self-sacrificing love. There's all kinds of loves, and the Greeks all have different words for all of them. The one that Jesus uses exclusively is the self-giving, self-sacrificing kind of love that puts the needs and the well-being of another ahead of our own concerns. It's the foundation of lifelong relationships that celebrate anniversary after anniversary. It's something that we can all aspire to in our relationship with family and friends. It is the calling of God on people of faith to put the needs and well-being of others ahead of our own concerns and to love them like we wish they would love us. And the world that obtains from that, the way that world looks, is nothing like this. Isaiah, confronted with this same challenge, the same almost overwhelming nature of the troubles and hardships of his world, says to God, "Me? Are you serious?" The way he puts it is, "I am a person of unclean lips. I come from a people of unclean lips." He's a mess like everybody else. And God says, "Yes, you. And I will make it so." And it's symbolized by this coal of flame, this purgos, this purging, cleansing fire that touches his lips. And then God says, who will go for us? Who's going to go and take this message of love, of agape, self-giving love, to a world that so clearly and so sorely needs it? And Isaiah says, "I'll go if you lead me. Here I am, Lord, send me." The only thing that God asks of us is a yes to that question. And God promises that he'll take care of any of the other problems. I think God is the consummate salesman, constantly clearing objections out of the path towards where God is taking us. That may sound a little crass, but it's true. Moses. Me? No. I don't talk good. And God says, fine, we'll send people with you. Your brother talks pretty good, so let's send him with you as well. All of the objections get cleared away, all of the resistant points, all of the things that we try to put up as a barrier between us and living out the simple thing that God is calling us, and that's just to be lovers in God's world, get cleared away by God. God never calls us to anything that he doesn't provide everything that is necessary to accomplish. It has already been given. He just calls us to that one answer. Yes. Here am I. Send me. In the face of problems that are so daunting, we are not called, not all of us, some of us, we are not called to be the leaders of global movements. We're not called to bring vast trillions of dollars of resource to bear on solving these problems as though money could do it. We are simply called to do what we can with what we have right where we are. And then again, imagine the world. Imagine the world where people of faith are convicted of that simple thing. Do what you can with what you have where you are. The disciples come to Jesus, again, worried about people feeding. They seem to be a hungry bunch. There's 5,000 people gathered here, Lord. It's getting late. We need to send them away to get something to eat. And Jesus says, what do we have? A couple loaves, a couple fish. Everybody gets fed, and there's more left over. What we can do with what we have right now is a lot. And if not us, then whom? Because if the people of faith gathered in community celebrating this goodness of God that we've been blessed with and filled with abundance, overwhelming, if we can't get together and say, here I am, then we've really got a problem. If not us, who? If not now, when? It's been 5,113 days and 250,000 more lives and trillions more of dollars invested, and we're just as violent as we were 14 years ago. If not now, when? And if not here, then where? We've got to go somewhere else to get started. It's at our door. It's in our communities. Sometimes it's in our homes. And God is asking, God is calling. Who will go for us? In longing, in hope that we will say, here am I, Lord. Go with me and I will go.